really this video is just me begging you to get off Twitter and touch grass.
That's it. That's my intro.
Hey, I'm Amanda. I'm professionally curious and I talk for a living, and you're watching Swell Entertainment, the channel where I tell you about whatever I'm obsessed with every week. And today I am begging you, I'm gonna grab you, begging you to travel alone. This is a different video than I would normally make, I would say. This is more like a Substack post, maybe an article, writing about a blog post about how please touch grass. But you know what? It's my last night here. I don't want to leave. The only thing that is making me go back to the United States of America is my dog. That's it. Everyone else there? Sorry. I'm kidding. I also like my apartment. But I've really enjoyed my trip, and I've been solo for most of this trip. I was with someone for a little bit during the Grand Prix itself, but I was still like traveling solo. I was still staying solo, things like that. And so I've been here for 3 weeks and I've been alone. And it's amazing. And so I really want to talk about this with you guys because I do so much alone. Okay. You guys know I travel alone a lot. I very publicly travel alone a lot. I talked about some of like the negative reactions, not even negative in the way that it affects me. It's negative. It's not necessarily negative like in like someone's mad at me type of thing. On occasion, I get people that are mad at me. I don't know how to tell you guys that me going on a plane is public transportation. The plane's going with or without me. I am not personally, I'm not Taylor Swift. I don't have a jet. Me taking a flight in economy is not me personally like setting fire to the ozone. I just think that my life personally really changed. And I understand that so much of this is coming from the lens of I'm a content creator, but my life truly changed when I was 20 years old and I made a decision. And this really technically had nothing to technically do with travel, but it also kind of did. I made the decision that I was going to stop waiting on other people to live my life. And that particularly came about because of my friends. I had already made a lot of decisions. I had already left an abusive home. I had already got no contact with a parent and, you know, been through health issues because of it and things like that. So I'd already done a lot of growing up. But that element of I can't go and do a thing unless my friend is with me, or unless I'm dating someone or something, was still like a thought in my brain, despite the fact that I had done so much alone and I already was so independent. And so when I was 20, I made that choice. And it was something as so simple where it was like a bunch of my friends said they wanted to go with me to, this is when this was like the thing to do, go out to LACMA in LA, because we were from Orange County, and like have an LA day. Yes, that is a thing that we did. And like literally the day of, like leading up, like one by one people were dropping out. And then my friend who had still been wishy-washy, who was always wishy-washy, finally pulled out like an hour before we were supposed to leave. For like a split second, I was like, I guess I'm not going now. And then I was like, wait a minute. I was the one that was going to drive. What do you mean I'm not going now? So I went, and you know what? They did give me weird looks. The Broad, I think, is where I went to first, because those were free tickets. But I did have like multiple bookings, and they did look at me like I was a psychopath, you know what? But I went and did it. And that was like a big deal for me at the time. And you know what? That led to this channel taking off. This channel would not be what it is if it weren't for 20-year-old Amanda making that decision, because I also invited people to go with me to TanaCon. None of them wanted to go, so I went alone. And you know what? Me being alone at that event was very integral in me getting able to stay in the content that I got, the event going the way that it did. I was able to get the content that I needed to get because I was alone and because I wasn't like freaking out over, oh my God, I need to get us out of here type of thing. I only had to worry about myself, and I was like, okay, I gotta film all of this in case someone starts lying. And guess what? People did. 2019 is when I did my first, I would say, big trip by myself. That was the raid on Area 51. That was me driving out to Vegas by myself. That was me getting a hotel room by myself for the first time. That was me driving 3 hours into the desert to go camp in my car and have dudes offer me to go and stay in their van with them. You know, like that. A lot of the bad things, I should say, because someone's going to bring up like, oh, what about all the dangers of being a woman solo traveler? Most of the truly like, oh God, like bad things happen in those early days. And then now, I don't know if I just have the standard demeanor of don't fuck with me, which I don't think I do, because so many of you say that I'm very approachable in person, which also leads to problems, unfortunately. It literally could just be that I'm older. You know, like the same way I don't get catcalled anymore. If you talk to any woman, they were catcalled the most when they were 13 years old. And then when they turned 18, that stopped. Just saying, you know, that trip was also like a big deal. And then because of that trip, I ended up doing my first flight alone at the start of a pandemic in 2020 of God, February. Yes. I flew to San Francisco by myself. I was freaking out because I'm not a nervous flyer, but I would get anxious in airports. I was terrified of airports. They stressed me out. They were designed to stress me out. And so I was so anxious, but I did it. You know, and now I fly like I run these places. I run this airport when I walk through here. Even coming to Japan, I was like, I know exactly where the hell I'm going. I'm following the signage. I know what to look for, you know, and that's just experience leading to diminishing your anxiety over something. And I think that's also a big part of it. That was an alien convention. That was Alien Con, for if you guys don't remember. And that was the last convention I went to before lockdown happened. That was probably like one of the first ones where I truly experienced like hostility of being an outsider of a space. That's not the point of this video, but that was like the first one. I did learn a lot of solo traveler lessons as well. Like I learned that if there is one man that is being too familiar with you, and he's a little older than you, just a little too polite and nice, and we keep running into each other like this. Yeah, you need to stay away from him. That was the first time where when I said, oh, I live out here, I live in LA, even though I didn't live in LA, I was an OC at the time, he questioned me on it. And I was like, oh, well, he's like, you don't remember? I was like, I'm 22, leave me alone, okay? There was also someone outside my hotel room that time. Someone tried to follow me back to my hotel room. Like a lot of like the stressful situations that I've been through were like really early days with me. And so I think that's now when I have like an issue where it's like, uh-oh, I think I'm locked out of my hotel. I walked back 20 minutes in the dark in Arashyama the other day, and it was well lit, and I was like, this is fine. I was like, don't tell my dad this until I'm back in my hotel. And you know what? I made it back to my hotel and everything was fine. I'll also never forget in 2022 when I did the Gone Girl cruise. Okay, that was my first time in Europe, was going to the Gone Girl cruise. Like half capacity. I think I was one of two 24-year-olds that was on it. It was me and this Russian girl. And then there was two journalists also on the cruise. And everyone else was retirees. And very few of them knew who Gillian Flynn was. A lot of people were only on this cruise because it had 2 nights in Vienna. And a lot of cruises don't do like double nights in one like port, basically. Because I was young, the first night they were like, how old are you, if you don't mind me asking? I was like, oh, I'm 24. And they were like, oh my God, a baby. And like, I was basically like pseudo adopted by like several pairs of retirees the entire trip. And it was very fun. I enjoyed a lot of them, lots of couples. Only one couple on that whole trip was like annoying. And it's because he was a stick in the mud and his wife, like, I kept trying to get her to dance with us and stuff. Like, I was like, she's gonna have a good time. I don't care what you're doing. The whole trip was very fun. And then like the last night before we're all supposed to like go and disembark, a bunch of the women, I was sitting alone with them and they were like, okay, so it's great that you're traveling alone. And like, they'd always been the entire trip been like really excited about me traveling alone and like, oh, I'm so glad you're traveling young and things like that. But they started talking about like more safety stuff. It's like, okay, so you know, like when you're traveling alone, I was like, I know. I'm like, but I'm listening to all of it. And one of them though, she'd been retired years and she was traveling with her husband. They had been married for like 45 years. Okay. And she was like, I'm really glad you're traveling young because I love my husband, but I wish I would have explored more when I was, you know, more independent before I got married, before I had kids. And even now, like, it's great that we're retired, but, you know, I only have so many years of cobblestone streets left in me. And you realize that once you start traveling more. And so that's something that, you know, I'm not going to sit here and be like, money will come back, travel when you're in your 20s, you know, whatever. Because I know that's another comment that a bunch of you are writing out right now. It's like, oh, well, gas is X, Y, and Z. I get you. I hear you. I'm not saying to fly to Japan tomorrow. There were people that wanted to come with me to this, but they waited too long to book their flights from when I asked them. And so by the time they went to book their flights, costs were insane. Okay? I get it. When I'm telling you to travel, I'm not telling you go to Japan tomorrow. Okay? That's not what I'm telling you to do. I am telling you to start doing little day trips. Drive out to a new city you haven't been to before. Book a little hotel, okay? Not everything needs to be 5 stars. Listen, I'm not a hostel girly. I'm just not. I don't want to sleep in a room with a bunch of other people that I don't know. I'm so sorry. I don't want to do it, okay? I'm also a YouTuber. I talk to a camera for a living, okay? It's rude as shit for me to do that in a hostel, okay? With the content that I do, okay? So I'm not doing it, okay? I need a door to close and a place to sleep, okay? I need a clean place to shower. That's it. I'll barely spend time in this room other than when I'm filming and editing, okay? And sleeping. Sleeping like a rock this trip, okay? But I'm also an introvert who plays an extrovert on TV, okay? So I can do well, but I need quiet time, okay? Now, you can do that in your state. You can do that in your town. Is there a part of your town that you've never explored? Like, is there a part of your city that you've never explored? There's so much of LA that I have not explored, and I've lived there since 2021, okay? I've lived here 5 fucking years, okay? And there's so much of LA that I still haven't explored. There's so much of my state that I haven't explored. California is huge. I grew up in Orange County. Do you know how many of my friends that I grew up with that were like, okay, we're gonna go to Big Sur to surf? I've never been to Big Sur. I live in I'm born and raised there. I did a mission project and I've never been to Big Sur. Like, your state probably has things that you should explore and can explore. And that I think is good, because it also, I think when you're solo traveling, and I think solo traveling is the big thing. If you want to try and travel with other people to start, if you've never traveled before, I get it. But then again, like I said, you're waiting on people. I knew when I was asking people if they wanted to come with me to Japan, whether for 1 leg or 2 legs or the whole 3 weeks, I knew that regardless of what anyone said, my plans were not changing. I was coming. I was going to go and do what I wanted to do. And if they wanted to come out here, great. We had multiple hotel rooms with 2 beds. I accidentally booked a hotel room with 4 beds. Irrelevant, okay? But there is so much, okay, that you are depriving yourself, and I think self-development wise, depriving yourself as. Journaling is great. Journaling is great. You should be journaling. Please journal. But I also think that there's a lot that you learn about yourself when you're putting in yourself in a new environment that is not, like, say, a new job. This is such a tangent. I personally am someone that loves being in a new environment because I get so many creative ideas, okay? When I'm in a hotel room, a new hotel room, even the Strip, I've changed hotels multiple times. I just get like, I love being in a new environment. I get new ideas. I start writing things down. I'm getting stuff out of my brain, okay? When I move apartments, I get new ideas. When I move cities, I get new ideas. And the same thing goes with traveling. When I'm out, I love Japan, Amanda. I would love to live here. They're making it very difficult for me to do so. And again, the only thing getting me home right now is my dog. Okay? That's it. Otherwise, I'd be trying to stretch this trip and use my full 90 days that I've been allotted. Something I was really bad at for years was sitting alone at a restaurant. And I think that that's something that now, to solo travel, that's really the first thing you need to be able to do. Can you sit alone at a restaurant? Whether it's at the bar, I don't drink alcohol. I usually ask for a table. I'm like, hey, is there a 2-top I can grab? Sorry, And if they truly are slammed, I'll take a bar top, okay? Here in Japan, it's great, I will say. A lot of places are designed for solo eaters, because there's so many people that are working and then just coming back from the trains and things like that. So there's a lot of spots where it's like, I usually don't get any trouble with like, hey, table for 1. They're like, yeah, sure, go. And they're not like, ooh, where do we put you? Like they do in the United States. Even just like trying new things on the menu. I don't recommend starting with just going to a foreign country. I don't recommend that. Is there a national park you want to go to? You gotta go now, apparently, because Cheeto and Chief is defunding everything because he hates fun and nature and having a planet for the rest of us to live on, evidently. I just feel like I have learned so much about myself from like every trip that I take, I feel like I learn a little bit more about myself every single time. And I'd say that as someone who is very confident in who I am. I'm very confident in who I am. I think more so than anything, especially this trip, I've learned a lot of what I don't want. I've been doing a lot more tours this trip, like group tours. And multiple times I have said, oh, thank God I'm not married with a kid. Multiple times. Oh my God, some people are out here in cities I love. And in beautiful, beautiful locations, absolutely miserable because of who they married. Oh my God. I literally am going to have a conversation with my therapist about like, hey, so I do think I should be a nun. Like, I don't think anyone's coming near me for the foreseeable future. That is a potential downside of solo traveling, is you might get too comfortable alone. I will say, solo traveling, it has become very difficult for me to travel with people. It is because my patience for bullshit has nosedived in recent years. I'll use my dad in his example because he knows we've had this conversation several times. Because I travel a lot, when I travel with my father, I am deemed the expert. And then I become like a secretary for my father with traveling. And it makes me angry. Like things that I don't think about with traveling. Like the one that drove me insane was he was like, hey, can you go ask them if they can give me an upgrade? It's like, why would I do that? No, they're not giving me an up. Why would they? What? No, because I made the booking? Absolutely not. Like little things like that. Even I've told my dad while I was on this trip, because he's always like, would I like Japan? And I'm like, I think you would like Japan for 5 minutes. I don't think you have the patience for Japan. My father is not a patient man. And I know I just said I'm losing patience with things. When I'm traveling, so much of like my patience with myself, my patience with a new place, like certain elements of patience, I do think patience is not linear. You can have high patience for some things. Like with children, I'm always gonna have high patience with children, okay? They're children, they don't know better. It's their first time on this planet. But like a grown adult man who's 61 years old, like my father, I have very little patience for him not understanding how to do things. He's a grown adult man, okay? He has 2 children, okay? He owns a home. Like there's very, like, my patience is 0. Something like me understanding the train system out here. I'm the fucking train master out here, okay? You know the trick? Be patient with yourself and don't be rushing. You'll be fine. Okay? Like, that's it. I told my dad, I was like, you would have lost your shit, was for the Japanese Grand Prix this year, the ticket that I previously had in 2024, which was needed, was the Kintetsu Rail Pass. And that one was needed, okay? But then on top of that, you needed separate individual tickets for a reserved train line for the Kintetsu Express Rail Pass, one of them, for each day to and from the track. That had to be pre-booked, and yes, it sold out very quickly. And once I figured that out, I was like, okay, like as soon as I figured it out, we got it booked, got it figured out. Okay, I figured out the to and from, got it sorted, made it to and from the track every single day, was never stranded, never waited in the insane line for the, shuttle or anything like that. But I was realizing, I was like, God, the fact that like the concept of going and being like, we have this rail pass, it's supposed to work, but then the trains were changed and now it's a reserved seat ticket, so you need both passes. My dad would lose his shit. My dad would lose his mind. That thought of my dad would freak out here made me calm down a little bit more. I was like, okay, I can sort this out. Because I'm not him. I explained that to him and he was like, yeah, that would piss me off. I love my dad. We're just going to travel separately to get to the location, okay? Like, we've traveled before. We've done cruises together and things like that. And as long as we're on separate flights and have separate hotel rooms and the like, we're fine. And I have friends that I've traveled with that are also really independent, and we're both, like, really good about being like, okay, I'm going to go do this, you go do that. Hey, my feet are killing me. I need to go rot in the hotel room for a bit. Hey, I'm a little overstimulated. Can we shut the fuck up on this taxi ride? Do you mind? And have I snapped at people? Yes. I've 100% snapped at people when we were traveling because I was bad at communicating it, and I'm still bad at communicating it. They do say, if you really want to understand a friendship and test your friendship, travel together. There's that saying or something of like, the girls' trip made it out of the group chat, but the group chat did not make it out of Miami or whatever. I've done girls' trips, I've done individual trips, and I've traveled with people where it's like, this works out really well, and we're both like the same types of traveler. And then there's been people that I've traveled with, like my father, where I'm just like, there's a level of non-reliance, I guess, if that makes sense. Like it's like, I have this rule this year where I'm not coddling grown adults, and that goes with people I know and people I don't. Same with people on the internet. Like, I'm not coddling you. I can't do it anymore. I guess you could argue like that's a downside of solo traveling, is that you might get so comfortable being alone that you have poor tolerance for bullshit. With other people when you're traveling. But I think that's also like, that's so much of learning about yourself. Like, is that something that I want to learn at 28, or is that something that I want to learn at 48 when I have kids, if I have kids? It's something I'd rather figure out now. Again, realize what you do and don't want. You realize what you do and don't want packing wise. You realize what you do and don't want with your time. One thing that I love about solo traveling is if I'm unhappy with the situation, I can leave. I don't have to talk to anyone else about it. There's no like, do you want to get food somewhere that's not here? I don't have to do that. I just leave. I was at Tokyo Disney Sea, and frankly, it was so crowded. Okay, it's cherry blossom season. It's their 25th anniversary, and they just started their food festival. It was a shit show, okay? I was barely eating. I was like, I need to go. Maybe I'll come back later. And you know what? I didn't. And you know what? It was the greatest night's sleep I got this trip. I left. I got an egg salad sandwich from the Disney Hotel Combini. And that was, you know what? It was worth it. It was great. It was amazing. It was a great night. And you know what? No one's in my ear being like, okay, but we should stay a little longer, right? No one's doing that. It was great. I could just do what I wanted. So much of this trip has just been like me like mapping out things that I would like to get to and then doing them at my own pace. Like if you want to spend 3 hours in a museum on one floor, you can do that. You can do that with people too. But also, you can do it yourself. Like, you could argue, yes, everything I'm talking about is like, oh, if you have the right person, sure. But also, you can figure this out for yourself so that when the right person comes along, you already know what you want. And you're not doing trial and error with another person. Amazing. Decenter other people. And this is not like a let them, don't rely on anyone, don't, you know, like you don't owe anyone anything. That's not what this is about. This is about sometimes to figure out who you are and to, you know, heal whatever you need be healed. Okay? I've been very open about the fact that I have trauma. Solo traveling did so much work for myself with that, truly, of realizing like I can be okay by myself. I can be okay without this looming presence in my life of this psychopath, you know, like I can be okay on my own time, on X, Y, and Z. Like there's so much that I figured out for myself because of solo traveling and through solo traveling. And not all of it was international trips. International trips started late in the game. I just feel like you learn so much about yourself from solo traveling the same way that you learn so much about friendships from traveling, you know? Like I have had friendships that, yeah, they don't make it past the trip. And it's because we just straight up, they're a different person when you're around someone 24/7. And it's like, oh, okay, I don't think that's, I don't think we're on the same page anymore. You know what I'm saying? Or at the very least, you're never going to travel with them again. Like I have friends that I'm like, okay, we're never traveling together again, you know, but like we're chill. When you travel alone, especially like if you do decide like, okay, I've been traveling alone, I've been doing what's X, Y, and Z alone. Once you start traveling internationally and you start dealing with problems like with a language barrier, when your phone's not working, when your data's out, when you know, your phone died, like once you are able to handle those problems for yourself, other problems back home seems so insignificant. This is a worms. Hi. Worms is what we call trauma dumping in stream chat. Have you heard that audio where it's like,
I was in rehab at like 15. I feel like this is not my biggest issue.
I've literally cut off an abusive parent when I was 17 and half my face froze from Bell's palsy. Like, this is not, like, it's kind of that same thing where it's like, this is not the biggest issue. I can handle this dumb bureaucratic paperwork thingy that I've been stressing out about for 20 days for no reason because I've done harder things than this. And I feel like so much of the solo traveling has done so much for my anxiety. Like, I'm unmedicated, if you couldn't tell. I had what I later called if my therapist sees this video, they're going to ask to revisit an autism assessment for me, which is I went to go visit the Lucky Dragon number 5 ship. The boat, which was affected by I think the only hydrogen bomb testing that was done by the United States, and a ship full of tuna fishermen, Japanese tuna fishermen, were affected by coral ash, irradiated coral ash raining down on them. They have the boat here in Tokyo, in Japan. And I went and saw it, and I cried at the exhibit. I cried. I was very emotional, reading the plaques and reading, the casualty from the crew. He said he hopes that he is the last victim of, I'm gonna cry again. Oh God, of atomic or hydrogen bomb. I'm not gonna cry. And then after that, I went to the train museum. I left that to go to the train museum. And then
What were y'all doing? What do you mean malicious pranks?
I went back to my Disney hotel. And that's why you should solo travel, because you can cry. I cried again today, too, at an exhibit at the Edo Tokyo Museum of 100 views of Edo. I don't know why I cried at that, but I got so emotional, like seeing all of these prints of these views. I don't know why. My therapist is going to ask for an assessment. I'm not going to sit here and tell you like that I haven't had bad days solo traveling. Obviously, like I've had days where I realized like halfway through the trip, like I'm very sick, you know. This whole trip I've been very good, which is great. Haven't even had any stomach issues or anything. But like that is a thing that can happen, you know, and it's like, what type of person are you when you are, you know, you realize you might have the flu and you're, you know, across the world from anyone that might be able to help you or take care of you. What do you do when you have a rental car and you realize that like the hotel that you booked is unsafe or the Airbnb that you booked is unsafe? I don't book Airbnbs anymore. They stress me the fuck out. I don't book them unless I'm in a group. I will say that. I am a hotel girly through and through. Yes, bad things can happen in hotels, but you know what? When I leave here, I don't have to clean anything. I can just grab my stuff and go. Like, I've stayed in bad places. I've stayed in shifty places. Like I said, I've stayed places where men were being weird as shit with me, you know? Like, and that's a reality. And I'm not going to sit here and say that there's never been times where I've not been in danger. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say that with you. But I do think that my ability to read a situation has gotten much better because of my solo traveling. That being said, I do have a lot of confidence in my ability to assess and talk my way out of situations. I will bark at a man. Like, I will bark at someone. The other day, I was walking to go get breakfast, and a Japanese streamer walked up with his selfie stick and came up to me and was like, do you speak Japanese? And I was like, nope. And I kept walking. He was like, oh, but you're so beautiful. And I was like, that's nice. And I kept walking. The keep walking move is amazing. Just keep walking. What? I can't, bye, you know, like, bark at someone. I don't know. Like, just keep moving. That helps a lot. I always make sure I have a backup phone charger. I always make sure I have money of the local currency. I always make sure I have room on a credit card, even though I'm not using my credit cards at all. Are safety precautions in place. I know there's been a discussion right now, especially on Reels, I see, but no one's discussing it. I don't feel the same way about guys who solo travel as I do about girls who solo travel. It's always girls saying it, where it's like, I love a girl that solo travels, a guy that solo travels. I'm like, ooh. And I get you, okay? But also I need men to solo travel because I need you to learn about the world. You know what I'm saying? Like, I need you to think about others when you're, because to be solo, like I know a lot of people, it's like, oh my God, it's so selfish that you selfish that you travel alone. But like, there is a level of, you know, reading a situation, being considerate for others and things like that when you are solo that I think is different than like day-to-day life. And I do need a lot of men to go through that and experience that. I do think sometimes, yeah, solo traveling makes people worse. You could argue it's making me worse. You could argue that, okay? You could argue that it makes men worse, okay? But I do think that, especially with how online everything has become, it puts a lot of things into perspective, okay? Once you actually go out and about, the amount of people that are warning me every time I come to Japan. It's not my second time out here, okay? Been here 3 weeks. Do you know how zero I've gotten of like anti-foreigner sentiment? Zero. Japanese children look at me like an alien. It is kind of funny though. So I don't count that. The only people that have been weird with me is other foreigners that work here, because they usually like grab someone because they're like, she definitely speaks English. Come over here. And those are the only people that are like, maybe a little rude, okay? But like, I don't know how much of that is like they're actually being rude and how much of it is that is how they learn to speak English. And it's like very abrupt and therefore it comes across as rude. You know what I'm saying? But like, what's the saying where it's like, oh, hey, I thought this was canceled. Why is it getting $1 bajillion at the box office? It's like, well, because Twitter's not real life. Same thing goes with real life. Please don't let like the fear of the internet like prevent you from going and exploring a town 2 cities over from you, you know, going to a new state. Like, what's in Idaho? I should check out Idaho. You know what I'm saying? One thing that I really want to do as well before I turn 30, I'm going to be 29 this year. I would like to go to every single national park in the country. That is a big ask, especially because it's hard for me to do that in the sense that I could justify getting to Japan because motorsports content. F1. I could argue I could find an event in every single state. Maybe I do that, and then go from there and then just add extra trips, a few extra days. Maybe bring Hermes if I take my dad's van. That might be the move. Solo travel with dog. He's a psychopath. That's the problem. I would love to travel with Hermes. He does hate everyone. I'm like dead serious. Like, I do think you realize what's important to you, kind of the same way of like what we talked about with the taste. I feel like going out and living life, you find what you do like, what you don't like, what you do tolerate, what you don't tolerate, what you do need and what you don't need, you know? Like at this point in my life, I'm very confident in who I am, but I am at this point in my life, especially with being 28, where I'm like, someone's gonna call it a midlife crisis or a quarter life crisis. I don't think it's that at all. I just think I'm like having this realization of like, I am fairly young, and, you know, do I want to settle down in the way that I am currently, like extremely settled with like where I live and what my job is and how I do things, and I have Hermes. Is that what I want to do? Or do I want to like totally change where I'm at, totally change what I'm doing, and, you know, see what happens there? Because I do have so much time to reinvent myself another 5 or 6 times, you know, before I kick the bucket, hopefully. Saunter off this mortal coil, you know what I'm saying? And so that's kind of where I'm at right now. It's just kind of like, I know who I am, but what do I want to do with who I am? You know what I'm saying? And that includes with like what I own. Like I have this whole grand plan of like going through again everything that I own when I get home to like, do I want this or do I have it because I bought it? You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. Same thing goes with travel. I just feel like you learn a lot about yourself and you learn a lot about the world and other people. Like also, please, as I've talked about, talk to strangers. Like, Amanda, you don't want to stay in a hostel. Yeah, I want to sleep. But like, I will talk to the people next to me at the ramen bar if there's not a divider between us, you know, like I will say hi to the people in the elevator. Like I do talk to people. Side note, I do have a question for any of my Japanese viewers. Hi, what do you say if someone sneezes? Are you not supposed to acknowledge it? Because I did a few times say bless you, and I don't know if that's just not a thing that you're not supposed to say. I don't know if it's because it was in English or if that's like, it's like bad luck to acknowledge it, or if it's disrespectful to say bless you. I don't know. I will be Googling it. Like I will be looking into this. But I stopped doing anything when someone sneezes and it feels wrong. Curious. Anyways, I love it out here. I will be coming back. Like that's all this is. But please solo travel, even if it's just, you know, like doing a little staycation in your own town, you know, checking out a new city on a drive, do a little road trip for yourself. Maybe you don't even need to do like a full like trip. Just do like a little day outing to somewhere you haven't been before. And yeah, that's really it. Do you solo travel? Have you never solo traveled before? Oh, one thing that you can do as well is like if you do want to like travel and you want to do it alone, but you don't want to be alone, you can do like those travel trips and things like that. A lot of like tour groups, they build it up with like solo travelers. Single supplement sucks. I'm not gonna lie to you. I need more travel companies to deal with solo travelers, okay? 'Cause single supplement sucks. That's where they charge you more because they're only getting one person in the booking. Cruises are horrible about this. There's a couple ones. Maybe I'll link some down below. I'll also link some articles and stuff about solo traveling down below. But like, please, pretty please try solo traveling. That's going to be it. Reminder, I stream on Twitch. My solitude is now available on Spotify. Reminder, girly pop go if you'd like some more car and motorsport content. Shout out to my channel members. Thank you for supporting me on channel memberships. Also join me on channel memberships. Join down below. If you'd like to follow me on social media, they'll be all up here. Let's have a lovely day. Goodbye. Like, do you know how powerful I felt when I figured out the buses out here alone? The trains alone? Shinjuku Station? Shibuya Station? Figured that all out by myself, baby. I am a train genius.